Click, click, click. Live. The counter's up. Is this working?
We'll never know because nobody's tuning in.
I hope someone's watching the comments. I'll have yet to figure that one out. I think it's working, folks.
There's a tab called comments.
We're here.
You can try pressing it. There you go.
Okay.
There we go.
So never done this before live. Anthony, quick question. Did you have room in the luggage for the key? Just yes or no?
No, I did not.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get to that. We'll have to figure that one out. And Brad, duck pin next?
Yes, absolutely.
Wicked. We'll get into that too. Okay. So, okay, let's get serious for a sec. First off, I think speaking on behalf of everyone, I want to thank NEPS for giving us this venue, giving us this opportunity. Shout out to the Englands for kicking some butt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No question.
I also want to quickly just talk about 5PU because a lot of folks came up to me and said, hey, 5PU's got this thing going on. What's going on? And the moral of the story is simple. I love bowling. I have a broadcast background. I'm a geek. And these are the two best things that I love doing. And the more that we can spread the word and tell folks about what we do, I think the better. Your 5PU podcasts have been going for so long, and the breadth involved in them is unparalleled. And this stream is happening because of 5PU. Lyle reached out and said, "Hey, what are you guys doing? What tech are you using?" And we're using their tech right now, StreamYard. And I've never used this. I watched some video tutorials today. And by the way, they owe you a referral, $25, 5PU coming your way. I'm going to email them, make sure you get that in your pocket. But again, all of this is because of 5PU and because of the beautiful streams that I've tried to look at and learn from, and so much more to come on this side of the place here. And again, Newfoundland, if you ever want to jump on board, a lot of folks out here would love to get you started and help out with anything we can. So that's what we're trying to do, coast to coast. We're all in this together. So let's just grow the sport, rock and roll. And with that said, we've got a couple of champs in the room with us. We've got Anthony Streit.
Thank you.
Just talking about this.
We just figured this out 3 minutes before air.
I'm done. And I'm German too.
All right.
Anthony Streit.
Yes, Vogler. Chasing the birds. That's why you didn't. That's why you didn't get it right.
Okay. From Red Deer, Alberta. I'm
Good enough.
From Red Deer, Alberta, out from the west, top bowlers, came out to Oshawa and kicked some ass. And we've got Brad here too, from the other side, from Newfoundland, and he came out and he bowled a 450, which is just pretty incredible. First one on the club tour. With that said, we're going to ask you some questions and keep it open, have fun, and let's just dig into the minds. So, with that said, I always like to pass it on to JB, and he's gonna start off.
All right. So, first of all, cheers.
Yeah.
This much we can at least we can steal from 5PU Universe. So Anthony, champion, yeah, that's very good. Brad, perfect game, quite impressive. We'll get to all that in the next 56 minutes or so. But I really want to start with a question that is burning in the minds of the three people watching, which is, how was it seeing me, the only and most loved PEI representative at this event? That's exactly the answer I was looking for. Right here.
I think it was fantastic because, we couldn't get Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, and PEI is so teeny, and also you're the sponsor of our 5-pin team, so I have to say nice things about you. So, of course, I was going to pick this up and answer. So,
yeah, I always think it's a treat to see you, JB. Like, for you to travel this far for like all these tournaments, like, kudos to you, because for me, anyways, it's pretty easy to get access to all these events, but for you, I know it's a little difficult, so we appreciate everything you do for this game.
That was a much more heartfelt and, I have to say, touching answer than I was expecting from both of you, and I really do appreciate that. And I'm not being funny now. I have to say, and again, thanks to the WCBT for providing me not only did I get my Gallagher Cup shirt, but I kind of just threw out the idea that I kind of wanted the game worn Dexter Wiseman shirt. So I have the game worn Dexter Wiseman shirt, which doubles actually quite well as a party dress. So I'm really happy about that. Anthony, when we were sitting across the table from each other at the investment seminar, and PinPal's podcast absolutely condones gambling.
Oh gosh.
you were constantly self-deprecating. You were talking so much about how you were of no value in the investment seminar, that nobody should bet on you, blah blah blah. So I'm curious, how premeditated was that very transparent, obvious attempt at market manipulation? Like, was that your plan going into the investment seminar? Did you call an audible once you got there? Like, what was that all about? All I kept hearing from you was, "Oh, I'm not worth anything. Nobody should bid on me. Everything is fine." And then you win.
Yeah, really, I just wanted to go for cheap, and so when they're asking me if I got it in me to win, like, that only increases value. So long story short.
Well, you knew Brad was either too drunk to buy you or just drunk enough to buy you.
We got him. We won.
Yeah,
we won the event. We won.
Yeah, and I feel stupid for not buying in.
He developed the nickname Skittles throughout the event, so people can join in and start calling him that if they like. Shane decided to give him a name as he was feeding him throughout Sunday.
Yeah.
And Brad, do you still have any of your perfect game money left? Could I have some of it? I have this habit of buying too many drinks at these tournaments for other people, and I'd really like to be able to pay for it. But I saw how quickly it was sort of moving out of your fingers during the investment seminar, so I'm a little worried, to be frank.
We did great. Our investment seminar was plus by quite a little bit. So me and Manor and Shane definitely did a little more buying than we had planned, perhaps at my encouragement or mistakes.
And in spite of Melissa's very vocal protest,
opposition, and I will say, it paid off.
I think you're talking to the wrong person there, JB. I think you should be talking to Mr. Wallace there for a little help on that perfect game pod, eh?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. Go ahead.
Here's the funny thing. I made a post about Nathan Cooper, and I'm sure we'll get to the 450. But on Friday, I left my cards and cash at the hotel room, and Nathan Cooper let me $50 to get in the singles pot and the 450 pot. So Nathan Cooper is actually the hero of my week.
And I'm the one who said that you could probably make some decent money just carrying cash around right after the no ATM post. And indeed, I did manage to provide cash for at least one person who then interact me back later. So that's good to know for future. Yeah. So Brad, if I do that next year, do I get 5%, 10%? What are we talking about here?
Luckily, I paid him back Saturday morning. So if I hadn't, I'm sure there would have been a discussion about 5%.
Conscience is clear. All right, I understand. So let's get serious for a moment. Let's start with the obvious question. Anthony, you kind of went from right here to right there in one jump in this tournament, right? Were you? I actually don't know. This was your second time, and were you on the bubble? Were you just in, just out? What was your deal before?
Yeah. So last year, I think it was either shift 1 or shift 2. I threw like 2096.
Ooh.
And so I knew it wasn't. Yeah. I didn't think it was good at the time, and it turned out to not be good. But
I think you were going with me
the last shift
for that. Apologize for jumping in.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, going into the last shift, I still played it, and I was on pace to pass that. And I think going into game 7, going into game 8 of the last shift last year, I had 2 shifts in with maybe like 3 or 4 lanes left to go. And so I actually plowed in the 10th frame of that game. And so I had a 2096 and probably like a 2080 something.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but it was okay because at the time I was in. But then I slowly watched like Jim Headbang out to pass me, Jim Thorpe, Nathan Cooper, just a handful of guys, and I ended up being 49th.
Oh man.
So
okay, so when they were calling you Bubble Boy, that was not a term of endearment. That was a term of derision. That's cruel.
me and Al tied for the 49th spot because as we were watching, we were like, we might have to play off for that spot.
I'm so glad it wasn't a tie for 48th.
Exactly.
Like 4 years ago at Timmins, there was the tie for 32nd, and at the time, Sarah was traveling with me, so she was at the lanes all day doing photography, and we were like, we had the boots on, ready to walk out, and then we heard there's a tie for 32nd. Everybody go back in. And I was not very popular in the hotel room after forcing Sarah to stay there an extra 75 minutes to watch that 32nd place playoff. So thanks for that. Did something specific feel different for you going down the stretch in your qualifying shifts? Now, you probably have the memory of 2090, 2080, and it not being quite enough. Like, was that in your mind as you were approaching a score that seemed like it was going to be good enough to qualify? Or had you managed to just, block that out?
Are we talking like last year?
No, now this year. Because last year we know what happened. But
yeah, so this year, honestly, I didn't really have that in the back of my mind. It was more so just like no expectations kind of deal. And if you're in, you're in. If you're out, like, it's no big deal. But I think going down the stretch, it was more of like a conscious effort to like focus on each shot, because I know that like maybe prior years, maybe I thought that the number would be like 2140, 2150. And so those last balls, it was almost like I wasn't as focused because I thought I was already out of the cut line.
Right.
Whereas kind of this year and throughout like all of the tour events last year, that last shift, it kind of, you have 10 frames to throw one decent game and you can still get in. So that was kind of the plan going in.
So then what was it like for you coming into the week? Like, did you have a chip on your shoulder? Were you like, whatever happens, perfect zen? Like, what was your mindset, say, on Wednesday and Thursday?
Honestly, I had no expectations on Wednesday and Thursday.
What is that like? How do you have no expectations? This mystifies me.
I truly think it's just like, it's a combination of like, I haven't had a whole lot of success on tour, and I know how good everyone is. So for me to say I have to be in the top 48 of a field that has 300 people that are capable of making a cut, it's not unreasonable for me to miss. But if I make it, I know that I deserved it. And at that point, I'm going to be ready to play on Sunday.
Right. But, I mean, raw numbers, right? 84th percentile is pretty damn high. I mean, that's high no matter how the field is. And the bigger the field, the harder that is.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
64th percentile, JB, me, you both.
Well, so I dropped from 4th to tied for 31st in the rankings because I was the 4th person to buy an Ontario Club Tour membership.
Oh gosh!
And now I'm tied for 31st and coincidentally last. Although technically speaking, I think the people who showed up and got no points are ranked ahead of the people who didn't show up. I think the 3 people at the bottom of the rankings who didn't show up at all have like -1 points. At least that's how I'm playing it in my head.
Right. So you're in the top 25 probably.
Yeah. Hey, let me enjoy it as long as I have it.
Kudos.
The Ontario Tour is the only tour in which I have had any points. It's just unfortunate those points have expired by now. So then what, like, you're in the final match.
Mm-hmm.
Are you floating on a cloud? Are you terrified? Are you again calm? Like, what's your demeanor in between when you win your semifinal match and realize, okay, now it's just them and me. That's it. That's all there is to it. One of us is going to win.
Yeah, no, it definitely changed from it. It was probably about the 8s where I started to realize like this is a real thing and I can do this. So I wasn't nervous by any means. I knew I was still like an underdog compared to like the field, but in my head, it felt like they were gonna have to still take it away from me. Like I knew that I wasn't gonna get this opportunity potentially again, whereas a lot of these people in the field have done this lots of times. And so in my head, I knew I wasn't going to just bow down and just not give my best effort. So it was a definite change in mindset at that point. But going into like the final match, I knew that, yeah, this could be the one moment that you might not ever get this again. So I definitely didn't take it lightly, and I knew that every shot I threw, I was going to try my best on. So yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off.
No worries.
A lot of people who have the idea in their mind, I don't know when I'm going to get this chance again, tense up and feel like it's now or never.
Yeah.
So you didn't, right? You were thinking like, hey, I'm playing with the casino's money. I'm here. That's awesome. Yay me. Like, where does that come from? How did you not walk into, as you said, the 8s thinking, oh shit, I have to do it because I don't know when I'm going to be back here again?
What? Sorry. So what made me
like where did that come from? Because I would think it would be very natural for somebody like me, for example, to get into, you know, the closest I've got so far is B-side 8s. I haven't made it to the quarterfinals yet.
Yeah.
And I could imagine getting to the quarterfinals, let's say next month in St. John's, and thinking, oh shit, this is my chance. I have to capitalize on it. So why wasn't it like that for you? What do you think? What was your preparation? What is it about you that makes you see that as an opportunity instead of a necessity to win?
I think to me it was like a combination of kind of like realizing that all the hard work I've done over the years is kind of like paying off. And it wasn't necessarily a moment where like these guys might have felt I've been here before. And so for me, it was like, you've finally done it. You have no expectation at this point, right? And so having that no expectation and kind of realizing you're in this moment, it was somewhat freeing. And so I kind of don't really know how to explain it, but
I think you're doing a great job.
yeah, I just feel like in that moment, like I didn't change much. I didn't think of the moment more than what it was, but I was just kind of happy to be there. And then yeah, once I realized like this might not happen again, that's when it was like a little more serious and I buckled down a bit more. But
I think you've summarized any decent book on sports psychology and sports performance in the last 2 minutes.
I also think we need to say that Anthony is obviously going to be there again a whole bunch of times.
The floodgates are open, to be sure, right? There's no question about that.
We'll see.
So I love the humility, but anyone who watched Sunday knows he's going to be there a lot.
Yeah.
I know. And Anthony's thinking in the back of his mind, just let me do it a second time before you sign me up for 23 of these. Jesus Christ, give me a chance. I'm with you. The second one is usually the hardest one, right? Because the first one could have been a fluke. The second one, you start to feel like you're really there. And then after that, you know, then you're like Brad and it's just, well, shit, I'm here. So I'm going to be in the top 10, surely.
Yeah.
I'll just toss off a couple of 380s and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Back to back, since that will be exciting, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I find your humility both refreshing and genuine. Like you're either genuine or you're very good at what you do, and you're a tremendous actor. I think that we have a phrase that we use in my other career. We talk about confident humility, about knowing that you're good, knowing what you're good at, knowing how good you are at that, and yet recognizing that there's still room for improvement, and that doesn't mean that you are the best at all things at all times. And I've only got to know you a little bit more in the time that we got to spend together this past weekend. I'm hoping that won't be the last time. But you strike me as that confidently humble person. And so if I could, you don't need my advice, but if I gave you some, it would be, don't lose that. Whatever you have, whatever it is that makes you have that, buy more of it tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your kind words. Yeah, I don't know. I just try and be true to myself, because this game wasn't always something that I thought I'd really continue in. So
talk about that for a sec there, Anthony. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Where did your journey start?
Me too.
And was there a break? I definitely had a break in my career too.
Yeah,
What was that moment that brought you back?
Well, there's actually a couple of moments. So like I started in YBC when I was probably about like 13. And like my family roots are actually pretty deep in the bowling community in Alberta anyways. So my grandparents are proprietors by trade. And so they owned a lot of centers out here, like Stellar and Olds, and then the old Riverside and Red Deer. And then they kind of just like, they would start it up, sell it, start it up, sell it, and so on. So anyways, like my parent, like my dad and my uncle, they grew up in the YBC program, and they were both national champions. My uncle, I think, is a Triple Crown winner, and my aunts, they were competitive in their own rights as well. But for me anyways, I didn't really have an interest in bowling until one day my uncle was like, why doesn't Anthony bowl? Like, this is kind of part of our family. And yeah, sure enough, like the first game I ever bowled when I was like 13 years old, it was like a 287. And he's like, yeah, he's got to play. And so they bought me like shoes that day and bowling balls, and yeah, I was hooked.
You were hooked from that moment. Yeah. Did
Yeah,
you keep that going on, or did you take a break at any time?
No, I took a break right away. So I was probably 15, going into grade 10, and like I still didn't know what provincials were. I didn't know what youth challenge was. I don't even think I competed in anything at that point. I was just a small town local YBC bowler, and I was just playing so I could win Subway cookies and like blizzards from like our local sponsors and stuff.
This is amazing and infuriating to listen to.
Yeah,
I'm feeling exactly the same way right now.
Yeah, like I just remember like going into Subway with like, I think I one time took like 60 cookies home, and I was just like, yeah, this is what bowling's about. And anyways, I remember being in like grade 10, and I was playing football, and that's when I played my first provincials. And I told my coach, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to make it. And he's like, okay, that's fair. Like, what for? And I told him bowling. And he's like, you're going to miss football for bowling? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. But then
I'm going to miss practice for a championship. Thank you.
Yeah. But it kind of like, I took it kind of hard when like my teammates would be like, you're picking bowling and you're playing bowling over these sports. So I pretty much quit bowling from 15 to 18 or 17 maybe.
Wow.
And just focused on like high school sports. And then when I graduated, I kind of joined YBC again, joined a league at Heritage. And that's kind of where I actually first started like having a coach and like learning the basics of bowling. And yeah, I was fortunate enough that like I actually made a nationals my last 2 years in YBC when I was 18, 19. But then I went back to school. So then I stopped bowling again for 4 years. And then I started up bowling in 2016, 17. And then played for 2 years. COVID happened. And then I feel like this is the longest stretch I've ever competed in bowling for like the last 4 years. So yeah, that's kind of long story short of my history of playing the game.
I have to say it's an unusual story. It's not one that I've heard before. I mean, I took a 12-year break in my 20s and early 30s just because it was inconvenient for me to travel to a bowling center based on where I was living at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard lots of stories from people who, when they went to university, they weren't, close to a bowling center, so they took time off, or we had kids when we were 26, so I had to take at least 2 or 3 years off to devote my time to my kids, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Those stories are a dime a dozen. Lots of people have had those experiences. What you're describing, it's unusual for someone to give in to the peer pressure not to bowl. Not that I'm saying you did that, but it's sort of, it can look like that from the outside, but then go back when you're 18, 19, 20.
Yeah. So I think
like the people who crumble under the peer pressure, they're gone. They never come back.
Yeah. I think for me, it was, I always thought I was going to either get like a scholarship in golf or basketball. And then.
Okay. So you had other options.
Yeah. So I was going to go play for like our local college team, and I got redshirted that year. And I remember I was like F that, like I'm not playing on a team if I'm going to be redshirted. And then, what ends up happening is you spend all your time drinking and eating and partying. And I gained about probably 60 pounds. So I went from like 145 to about 205. And
we should swap stories about that sometime.
Yeah. Anyways, I kind of just realized I'm probably not going to be competitive in basketball anymore. And I realized I wanted to be competitive in something. So it ended up turning into bowling.
It's funny for me, bowling was the one sport thing I was good at. Like I'm a huge baseball fan. I played baseball from like the age of 12 until 19. I was lucky enough that my high school had a baseball team my last year of high school. I was a mascot. I batted 10th because there was no 11th place to bat me. I was terrible, but I enjoyed it. And I'm curious, for the other folks, like when you were a teenager and thinking about, like what role did sports have in your life? What sports did you play beyond bowling? And did you think of bowling as a backup plan or as sort of like your, the primary thing that the other stuff was distracting you from?
I'll touch on that a little bit here because my sports career started with baseball and Aaron Gate, softball, windmill, big guys as you're growing up. I never went to hardball. Softball player, I still love it to this day. I find that's a commonality in bowling is baseball. And I don't know if it's related, but after baseball, I remember my dad saying, hey, from a young age, I just loved going bowling. So it was every birthday party I go to, I just loved it. Everybody loves bowling. That's the thing. Everybody loves bowling. I think it just has a perception of if I'm in a bowling league, I'm a degenerate. I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, I joined the.
It's not the 1970s anymore, but somehow it is.
Anyway, so I joined the. It was actually a 5-pin bowling league at Webb's Royal York Bowl, and Jim Thorpe Pat from Metro can attest to that bowling alley that's not there anymore. However, that's where I started. I did my 1 or 2 years YBC, and then my dad said, "Do you want to try 10-pin?" I'm like, "Sure." So I went to a 10-pin league, and I loved that, and I was immersed in 10-pin. And then I worked at the bowling alley, and I did 10-pin for many years, 15 or so. And then I moved up north where there was no 10-pin, so I stopped bowling. And it was a couple year. Well, it was kind of a couple year break, and I decided, oh, it's this 5-pin stuff. I always loved 5-pin bowling, but I had never gone practice by myself because they weren't accessible in GTA. Found 5-pin and absolutely loved it, simply because I can't crank a ball in 10-pin to probably get those on the big stage there, but I can crank a 5-pin ball, and I found my sport. It's as simple as that. And I think it's just that journey in your in your career, where you're going, or in your sports career, whatever you call it, career, hobby, etc. It's my life, right? Like we were talking before. I'm here at Tree Frog, and every camera equipment, every photo I've taken is because of this lovely place here at Tree Frog that's donated all of this. Please make a donation if you can. This stream is expensive, and we're going to keep doing this, so I appreciate it. Even if you don't want the signed towel, $5 goes a long way. But yeah, it's just that's the. I just love that story, and Anthony, thanks for touching on that, because I think every bowler has that unique journey. Brad, tell us about your journey. Where did it start?
For me, I started bowling. I'm a younger brother, and my brother went bowling with his friends in '93, and I got dragged the next week. And I was an okay bowler in bantam. I played 2 years of bantam, and like my second last week bantam, someone said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I just throw the ball." And they said, "Well, just stand in the middle and look at that middle arrow." And I went, "Oh, this is easy." And I got pretty good pretty quick. But for me, it was in high school. Like Anthony, I was a pretty good basketball player. And I was a decent baseball player, better basketball player, but decent baseball player. And I hated that teams were picked because at the provincial level in a small province, there's a lot of politics. And it was open. Like I can remember trying to make the provincial midget team in baseball, and coaches openly talking about the politics of it with 18, 19-year-old guys. And what I loved about bowling was I was the best player my age in the province, but if a guy came out and beat me that day, he beat me. No one got to pick me because I was the better guy that day. And no one got to not pick me because the coach's son needs a spot because you need the coach, and the guy who's sponsoring son needs the kid needs a spot. So I fell in love with bowling because it's on the lane. I can remember, it's funny, Anthony, there was an Elite 8 basketball tournament. The top 8 teams ranked in Newfoundland my grade 12 year, and I was starting point guard on our team. And I played the Friday night game, and we were the second or third ranked team in the province. And we won our game. And I looked at my team. I was like, "Boys, I'm gone tomorrow." And they were like, "Where are you going to?" And I was like, "The Winter Games." They're like, "Oh, cool. The Winter Games for what?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck." The Winter Games.
I wish I had a thing to turn my back on for bowling. That would have felt really satisfying. But
they're like, "Are you seriously telling us you're leaving the second biggest basketball tournament of the year outside of provincials to go bowl?" And I was like, "I sure am, boys." And
yes, sir.
Our backup point guard was decent, but the weekend didn't go so great. The boys weren't very happy with me by Tuesday when we got back to practice. But it was in that moment, I loved bowling. My friend group are bowlers. I met my former partner through bowling, and it was our life, right? And like so many of us, it's our social circle.
Yes.
But for me, it was, I'm going to take the heat. I'm just going to listen to it. And it was all about the fact that you don't pick teams in bowling. You step on the lanes, and if a 220 average bowler beats me on a night, they beat me.
Right.
And there's nothing that can change that. And it is one of my favorite things about the sport. You look at tough zones in this country, and every so often there's a guy who makes that open team, and you're like, how did that guy make it? But no one gets to take him off it. No one gets to say he hasn't earned that spot. That's his spot for that year. And to me, it is my favorite thing about our sport.
Yeah. I'm with you there. So Lyle, how did bowling fit into your sporting youth and young adulthood?
Well, my dad was a hockey coach, and he looked at me and said, "Yeah, you're not playing that sport."
So he was like, "You are too beautiful to get your ass kicked out there. Yeah, we're going to make sure that we protect that face, that beautiful face."
The face for radio is the one not playing hockey, but
podcast.
I'm a third generation bowler. Like my parents, 3 nights a week were bowling league, so they brought me along if they didn't have a babysitter, and I would do the 50-50 tickets, and I would go crush pop cans in the back for the proprietor at the time. So I was around the bowling alley a lot, and just kind of fell in love with the sport. Did YBC, and this is my 26th year now, straight. And like Brad and Anthony mentioned, like in high school, grade school, be like, oh, I'm not going to be here this weekend, guys. It'd be like, oh, why you get to leave school early? I'd be like, I'm driving to a bowling tournament, and you get those looks of bowling exists, like it's. And I did the basketball and soccer and in the t-ball and all that stuff, but bowling was the most consistent sport on the quote unquote sport. But yeah, it just stuck with me. And soccer, there's a lot of running involved. This doesn't run that much, but
Yeah, try like 40 games when you make it. You've been there.
but
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah,
No, that's fantastic. We talked a little bit about there's a correlation between bowlers and baseball. And I think that makes a lot of sense because among all the sort of major sports that we're accustomed to, the big name professional sports, baseball is the one that's the closest to bowling. Like the only big major sports that are closer to bowling than baseball are like golf. Golf is essentially bowling.
It's curling. Sport
with different angles.
God damn it.
Curling.
They're broadcasting cornhole on the TV. Why aren't they broadcasting five?
Let's not
done with it.
Danny, you need go find a guy at TSN.
Trying.
It's always one heroic person. It's fine. I know. It's literally just it's the same as it is in the software world. It's always down to one heroic person. And when that one heroic person is gone, everything falls to the floor. And that's exactly what happened to bowling. Golf, archery, biathlon, they're all the, concentration, deep focus, slow your heart rate kind of sports. When I read the book, The Powerful Engagement, it was supposed to be a business book, but they were tennis coaches. And they discovered that the top 20 players in the world beat the rest of the top 200 by lowering their heart rate by 15 beats a minute between points. Like people who knew how to control their shit were the ones who bubbled to the top, which leads to the very obvious question. Not the obvious question, but the other obvious question, because the obvious question would be, what was your perfect game like? But I'm actually not interested in that. What I'm interested in, Brad, is you shot 920 something for the first four in that shift?
939.
939, and then you shot 17.3 billion for the last four. So I mean the perfect game is an incredible achievement. The only reason that I didn't come up to you was because I wasn't there. Otherwise I would have been first in line to hug you, whether you like it or not. But I'm more interested in the game 5. Like, how did you go from 939 for 4, which is so bad I could do it, to starting on the front 8? Like, what did a switch flip? Did you
change
down?
balls?
Did you amp up? Right. Did you change equipment? What is it that really? What was that reset between game 4 and game 5?
I'm going to try to watch my time here because again, Newfoundlander were storytellers.
That's quite all right.
I was 30 games into this tournament at this point in time. I played 5 games. Thursday night was terrible. Played 8 games Friday morning, 2070 odd. Again, I traveled for 2 days, probably 10 points lower than average.
Yeah.
But, fun in a groove. Then I shoot a 1960 or 1950 Friday afternoon. And to be totally honest, by about halfway through game 6, I decided it's not happening right now. So I kind of went in energy saver mode, which I almost never do. And then I said, I'm just going to enjoy the Bakers. But I asked if I could throw 1 or 2 6 and 10 so I could get the extra reps. And I really felt I'd found a line. And I felt really good about it. I go in Saturday morning. Chris Gordon's on my lane, a guy I've recently met because he was at Open. We click. We're clearly getting on well. I'm like, this is going to be the set. And then I'm about 720 after 3. And I'm like, okay, let's find it. And I pop a 215 or 216 in game 4. And I can really get in my head, but I'm the best bowler I am when I'm a field bowler. You'll notice me. I move around a lot. I'm walking a lot. I just like to feel the energy. and I'd gotten a text from someone saying like, "Where's the fire? Where's fiery Brad?" Desiree talks about it a lot, right? The coaches need to meet bowlers where their level is. I also think bowlers need to know where their level is.
Yes.
And when I was 26, 27, I probably got too amped, but I'm 39 now. I don't have the energy to get too amped, but I can get pretty amped. So I'm 939. Chris is, I'm pretty sure, 903 after 4. And we're sitting down just commiserating, and I can get pretty Eeyore on a bowling lane. I don't usually let it out, like people don't see it. But I can get pretty down. Like I was doing the full, like I'm even going to buy into the 4th shift. What a waste of money. Like I'm full on, like it's a disaster in my head. And Chris goes, we just need to shoot a 1300 to make the cut.
How hard could that be?
And honestly,
yeah,
I've probably shot 4 or 5 1500 plus 5 game sets this year. I've had a real good run of sets. So Chris says it and we laugh, and then I walk away, and I'm a really good contrary bowler, and I was like, fuck this, I'm going to throw 1300 for 4. And people who know me really well know that when I get to that moment, it's kind of scary how well it happens, but I've done it not near as much as I would like nationally. I feel like I generally underperform on a national level, but I just knew. So I get that thought in my head, and then we end up on a lane on game 5 with Nathan Cooper, and I'm talking about the fact that I can't get the roll on my ball, and I only brought 1 set. And Nathan brings over these star lines for me. And honestly, the first thought in my head is, oh shit, I've convinced myself I'm going to throw 1300. Do I make this ball change right now? And then like the Canadian politeness in me is like, Nathan brought him over. I've got to throw at least 1.
Oh my God. All I can think now is I now have to actually like acknowledge that star lines are decent balls.
And so the funny thing is, you know, I've got my 4 or 5 sets of balls, but Karen's balls were star lines. So they were always the last balls I would use. If things really weren't working, I take out the star lines, great grip, a little bit of move. And these purple star lines look just like those.
Right.
I was like, you know what? I'll throw them once. I'll pop. I'll switch back to my ball.
I can make Nathan happy, show him that I have done the polite thing. I've tried his balls. Sorry, Nathan, they didn't work. Thanks very much for your help.
Instead of throwing a 40 frame 1300, I'll throw a 39 frame 1285. Like I can do this. And I get up and strike. And God love Nathan and Chris, they do the natural thing of like making a joke about it.
Right.
And then I throw
obviously it was the balls. Yeah.
Then I throw in 2 and they make the joke. And God love them. Like once it gets to frame 6 or 7, you know those guys are thinking like, is it time to stop laughing about this? Yeah. But they were good. They kept kind of carrying on. And I get up in 10 of game 5 and I pop. My first step, a little quick. And I've gone into 10 truly at least 11 times, because today as I was trying to think about this story, I thought go through and at least 11 times I've gone into 10. I have never made it to shot 12. I've only made it to shot 11 twice. So just a train wreck, right? You can just put the punch on the board. So I go back and Jeff Young and Kerry Kreitz are in the back, and luckily Shane wasn't in the building because Shane crucifies me about the fact I don't have a 450. And I go back to Jeff and Kerry and I say 2 things. Oh my God, I'm so glad he's not here to shit on me. And number 2 is I'm never getting one of these.
Right.
And like Jeff and Kerry, half jokingly and half being good guys, are like, nah, Brad, you're going to get one. I'm like, never. This is never happening. So I move over to the next game. And again, right now, I'm still only sitting at, 939, 400 to be,
right. So you're 1320-ish.
27, right? So I'm still nowhere near safe. So I'm like, I got to keep going. So I throw strike 1, strike 2. And I'm like, just don't punch and be 75-3, Brad. Great mental game.
Yeah. That's why you do the summer school. Yeah.
Yeah. And I throw the strike in 3. And that's when the brain just turned off. And I was like, oh, this is just feel now. We are just in a feel mode. I was thinking, let's be fiery. I was thinking, let's have fun. Let's have some joy in this. I'd gotten some pretty good texts that day that kind of reminded me of some things. And based on traditional sports psychology, I'm doing almost none of it because I'm feeling the zone. I'm doing my pre-shot routine, but very, very quickly, I throw 4, I throw 5. And by the 5th frame, I'm like, I'm running this.
Yeah.
And I'm a very tense bowler. I've spoken very openly, lots about my struggles with that. And there is none of that. I throw 6, I throw 7. I'm like, this is great. And God love Barker. Barker turns the screen in the 8th frame, so I've watched it, and I can see like, oh, I'm into this. And in 8, like I've got a swagger when I'm on the lane and throwing. I throw it as great. 9 is great. And in 10, me and my dear friend Bob Osborne, who's attacked, there's 2 type of anchor bowlers. Those guys who can block everything out, and those guys who can look around and go,
let everything in.
I want everyone to watch this. And I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm there, and like Zilla and Manor are back, and I can tell they're trying not to be in my space, but they're my local support. And I can just feel it. I can see cameras moving. I'm like, this is great. And I can't remember who was on my left next to me. I know Ty was 2 lanes over. But I picked up the ball in the 10th, and I went, this is done. Like, this is over. And then I throw the one in 11, and I actually released the ball on 11. I was like, I think I'm going to get on my knee this one and do a little knee slide. And I go to get up in 12, and I like to have 4-lane etiquette. I'll make 4-lane etiquette for myself. So I'll let the 2 guys go next to me, and then the 2 guys wide out. I'll usually step up and wait them out. So that I have 4-lane etiquette. And
I really prefer to do that at the back. Yeah.
And Ty went to go right before me in 12, which was perfect because it put me exactly in my routine. And I take the first step, and I knew it was small enough. And the thought just naturally came into my head, I'm going to do this right now. And of course I throw it, and the emotion comes out because I'm 39, and I do believe I've been due to have one. So it was big emotion, but really I'm at my best when I'm a field bowler. And I went from the 939 to on. Really, I got to give Chris Gordon a lot of credit. He said, go throw 1,300, and it worked. Nathan Cooper deserves a lot of credit. 2 or 3 people who texted me about being fiery, about bringing joy to my game deserve a lot of credit. And I made a Facebook post of it. I got out of my own way. So that's kind of the story of how it happened. I found the zone without thinking I was going to find the zone. And I got to love Jeff Young and Kerry Kreitz, because the boys go, that's us. We told you we're going to get one. Obviously, you got it after we told you.
Yeah. Perfect. 2 things leap to my mind. I'm going to be like, I'm looking at the clock to be sure. I'm going to be like hella selfish here. So I tend to get numb because I spent so many years trying to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious. You said after the 3rd frame, you kind of something clicked, but you also said you wanted to focus on keeping the fire.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do, or how does it feel? Are you the type who, like, the fire is there and I just need to regulate it a bit and calm a little bit down? Or are you like me, who is maybe a little over-regulated and needs to get amped up a little?
No, what I need to do is, for me, it's the breaths, right? And I won't get too into this. Meg Gallicano's a great person there, but I need to take a deep, heavy breath.
Yeah.
I will not experience the moment. I'm just not built that way.
I'm the same.
So the criticism I will always get texted by people watching the live stream who know my bowling is, Brad, you're not dropping your shoulders. So for me, no matter how tense the moment, as long as I take that true deep breath, which is like an exercise deep breath, you're getting ready to deadlift or something, take that deep breath, you're overriding all the mental junk because your muscles are being forced to relax. And when I watch the video, I can see it. I sit.
Oh, yeah.
And then I sit.
Well, you and Megan both do that really well.
Yeah, and so that's the key. There's nothing more to it than that. Is you have to learn how to do that breath, which is a process to learn that. But once you learn that,
practicing,
it literally overrides your brain being stupid. Your brain may still be stupid, but your muscles are going to listen to the breath that you took.
Yeah. Anthony, is there a technique that you use when you set? Is that routine? Is there something that goes through your head there?
No, nothing really goes through my head, to be honest.
Jealous.
But I do remember when I was in YBC and I did feel nervous. Shelby Kress gave me the advice of try and distract your brain from something that isn't bowling related. Right. So he would say, like, ask yourself a question like, what makes milk? And then you'd say, like, cows. What makes milk? Cows. And then eventually you forget everything and you just remember like basic routine. And by the time you've answered that question enough, you're not even nervous anymore. And so for a while, I did use that method. But like right now, honestly, I don't know what it is with me. I don't have that nervousness in my game. Like
Do you
I think
enjoy
I
pressure? Do you breathe off of pressure?
No, I think a lot of it is like it's the pre-shot ritual of like that's why I pace a little bit, because if I
Mhm.
pace, it's almost taking it out of my head already, and then I get to the lane and I'm already not thinking about anything except for maybe one thing, and that's routine. So
Mhm.
once
Yeah, I
I
mean,
once I've done that, that's all I need, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about that in episode 1 with Lyle, and what he was doing to keep himself balanced between being amped up and being calmed down during his finals in Midland, facing the crowd and talking to us, and not paying attention to what his opponent was doing.
Right.
And Lyle, I don't remember what you do. You remember kind of or you could just imagine it again. Like what's that like for you when you choose to do that? What is it that you're trying to achieve there?
Honestly, it's not trying to get overworked and trying not to involve yourself too much in that particular moment. But like I said, I like to have fun. I like to, kind of space myself from that moment and not feel that pressure, because that pressure is going to have a negative impact on your performance.
Right.
Like
the tension thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the tension, and Brad and Anthony mentioning pacing. Like I've seen Mitch Davies pace. I've seen, if you're stationary, you're overthinking. You have a lot more time to overthink. So
absolutely cautionary tale right here. I discovered last year finally that I need to go walk around and talk to people. Even if I talk to them about bowling, I want to talk to them about their bowling, not mine, so that I can get away from my game for 45 seconds to a minute and a half, and then keep an eye on the scoreboard. And when I see the person ahead of me is up, then I know it's game time. And that way I can focus for 45 seconds to a minute and a half, and the rest of the time I can just chill. And to me, it's the same whether it's a one-on-one match or, bowling with 4 other people in a qualifying shift.
Yeah. I also think something that blew my mind was I remember I watched Brad Mullins win Regina one year, and I had a conversation with him afterwards, and it's like, how does he remain calm? Because he, in my opinion, is one of the most composed bowlers in the game. And so his answer to me is, this game is actually very simple, and there's no difference between a Monday night and a Sunday final.
Yeah.
And he said, I just have the same routine. I have the same mindset when I bowl on Monday, and nothing really varies. So once you practice that enough, you're already mentally ready for that moment when it comes. So yeah, that hit me hard when I heard that from him. And that's kind of like, I don't take league as serious as I probably should, but I do take routine very serious when a moment's coming. So,
all right. I like you too much to let you keep saying "should" to yourself. Get that word out. Seriously, and that's Lynn Howell's school as well. That's he's very big on the moment is not different. You take care of yourself, and that's why I find Brad's perspective refreshing. The only time I've shot a 400, sadly on my own, I'm still waiting to do it in front of other people. It was 12 spare and then 10 in a row. And when I looked up and I saw that I had 267 in the 7th, I just started getting giddy, and I just started saying, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to bowl 402. This is great. I'm finally going to bowl 400. And then I got up and threw another strike. This is awesome. I'm going to throw another 400. Fantastic. Strike. You know what? I love this. I'm having so much fun right now. I'm going to shoot my first 400 right here today. Strike. And I just kept doing that. And that, I find that a lot of us maybe are afraid of the bigness of the moment, the magnitude of the moment, and we try to push it away. Let it in. Let it be your friend.
It's funny, JB, because we talk about mental processes and routine, and we do know how important they are. And then when you talk about the guys who know how to perform and are the special guys in sports, they often tell stories about how they kind of break their own rules. Tiger's a great example about using something to feed him. Jordan, obviously, a great example in a much more active sport, that they know they have to have these processes. But often when they have those special moments, it's their routine is so special to them that they can tweak it without doing it. And like, I love guys like Weber who are a slave to the routine, and obviously, 2,800 for 8 obviously works. But I also love watching like a Lenny Anseth, who some days will stay on a lane the whole time, and then the next time, there's a 52 lane center, and Lenny's 37 lanes down, and he's still throwing great. So he's doing whatever he needs to do in that moment. So I love both ends of that spectrum of people with how they engage with their routine.
Well, and that's the expert, right? What makes the expert is they get to just play jazz. They can do whatever the hell they want. In the moment, they can feel what the right thing for them is. They have all these tools in their toolbox. They know that they can fall back on this amazing training that they have set for themselves over decades of deliberate practice. But then in the moment when something is maybe a bit off, something's a bit different, the balls don't feel right. Oh, well, Danny's just going to give me his bowling balls. I'm going to throw those and it'll be fine. The fact that there's star lines, I'm not even mad. It's fine. And that's really that's the mark of an expert, right? The mark of an expert isn't knowing shit. It isn't necessarily achievement, but it's in the toughest situations, I can just play jazz and know that that's the best thing that I could do right now. I can break the rules because now is the time the rules need to be broken. Yeah. And I would love to reach that point someday.
Yeah, I think that just comes down to like knowing your game. Because if you can play jazz when you want to play jazz, like that's great. But there's a lot of people that'll like try and emulate a routine or something that they see as correct, and it could be. But if they don't know that that's their game, it's probably not going to work. And so I think like one of the most underrated skills that most people could actually like learn from any type of tournament or league is just to understand their game. Because once you understand your game, like it doesn't matter if someone says like that's not going to work, or if you know it'll work, it's going to work. Like that's
Understanding means that when somebody gives you a piece of advice, you can take it or discard it. You can choose with confidence. Yeah. Because you know your shit. You might not know everything.
You might not know your shit, but at least you know your game. That's how I take it.
There was no apostrophe in that Anthony. Come on.
Yeah. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, shall we play some jazz here? So we can just jazz out and call it a day.
Absolutely.
If you just jazz on the lanes. All right, I thought that was appropriate outro music for our podcast as we
absolutely
jazz.
Before Danny plays us off, Anthony, Brad, really hearty congratulations. I am annoyed that I was not there for your moments this past weekend. I had some family obligations and I also needed to rest. But I'm so happy for you both. And I can't wait to see Brad in what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh, okay. You got to get yourself back in playing shape. Newfoundland.
The blister.
The blister. Yeah, I had a new one here today. This is Dwayne Gilardi's fault. Dwayne, I hate you. I love you. It'll be fine. NBT Body Quest Classic coming up in early September. And Anthony, I will see you 1, 2, or 3 times before Christmas. You just have to get there. I'll do my part. You do yours.
Oh yeah, I'll be at every tour event. So
fantastic.
I'll see you there.
Gentlemen,
anything else somebody needs to say before it's over?
I just want to say, Brad, that's the first 450 I've ever seen live. So once again, congratulations.
Me too, bud.
Anthony, phenomenal playing, buddy. You pushed through. How many games was it on Sunday?
I think it was 25.
24.
24?
24.
Yeah. Well, 25 for you, 24 for me, jerk.
Right. I was going to say. Well, shouldn't it be a multiple of 3?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Anthony.
Thank you.
Phenomenal.
Oh, Danny?
It's a bad part of the song. It's all drums. It's not working out.
That's fine.
Thanks for
Should have
tuning
been
in,
some
everyone.
Astro Gilberto, but anyway.
Join your local YBC league in
Yes.
September. Call
Yes.
them up. Tell your friends. That's our future. If you want to make a donation to the stream, it'll help pay the $100 US a month for these many streams to come. Appreciate that. Mitch doesn't have to sign your stinking towel if you want him not to sign it.
You want him to sign it.
All the love. I'm just marketing guy. I don't know. He's like got all these titles. I don't know. It's like thought that would work. Till next time, folks. It's a pleasure.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so much.
Anthony and Brett.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you whenever.